Hey, if my YouTube analytics are any indication, this one is one that you've been waiting for. Yes, I'm finally getting around to my 2024-2025 curriculum picks video, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it is we're going to be using in our homeschool, at least for the first semester. Some things will be all year, some things I reserve the right to pick and choose as I go along and shift, because I usually have at least one big shift in the school year. I'm not going to lie. Usually there's at least one thing that I change, even after having done this all these years. And I'm sorry that I didn't get this video out sooner. I know there are lots of people who are putting their curriculum picks videos out in June or July, so you can look at them before you pick your curriculum. And if there's anything here that interests you, just let me tell you, there is always next year. It just takes me a while to get this done. I have lots of things going on. But without any further ado, let me go ahead and share with you what exactly it is we're doing in our homeschool this year. And as always, first of all, let me tell you what students I have in my homeschool this year. So I have a senior. I have one who is a senior, and then I have one who is a ninth grader. So I have two students in my homeschool, a senior and a ninth grader. The senior is going for a standard diploma. And so other than electives, the only thing he has to have this year is English. He has to have an English class for this year. And then the ninth grader is just doing your standard college prep, ninth grade kinds of things. Okay, so let's start with morning time, because hey, we're doing morning time. And the very first thing we do every day in morning time is we start our morning time with The World from A to Z with Carl Azuz. Now, I've interviewed Carl a couple of different times on the podcast, and we can link that for you. And Carl is a delight. I absolutely love talking to him, but my boys love watching him. And so we always start our day with 10 minutes of Carl Azuz, and that keeps us up on current events and just all kinds of fun little clips and things that they do in the show, and we enjoy it. And it sparks a lot of really interesting conversation. And so that is the way that we start our morning time. After that, we do a little prayer. But sometimes we just do spontaneous prayer. And then there are times where we do use prayers in the Hallow app. So I'm a Hallow subscriber. It's probably one of my favorite subscriptions. I've been a subscriber for 4 years now, and I use it for my own personal prayer. And then I also use it sometimes with the boys in morning time. So sometimes we do, our favorite is kind of Saint of the Day. And we do the adult version of the Saint of the Day because I have high schoolers, which there's really nothing adult about it. I just know there's a kid version as well, but we do the adult one. Not sponsored, but something that I really enjoy using. So after prayer, then we move into kind of our topical reading. And we are working from two different books right now. So one of the credits that we're working on with my senior, and actually I decided just to go ahead and not do history with my ninth grader, and he's just going to get these credits as well, and that's economics. And so the book we're reading right now for economics is Whatever Happened to Penny Candy. And this is an Uncle Eric book. And then after we finish this one, we're going to move on to some other Uncle Eric books. Probably going to read 3 total this year. And I'm just not sure which ones we're going to read next. I've got them picked out. I just can't remember what they are. But this semester, this is the one we're reading. I can see already I'm going to have to come back and do another video next semester. And then I was going to do a whole logic class with my boys, and decided not to because I found the amazing Dr. Ransom's bestiary of adorable fallacies. And I decided, you know what, fallacies are enough. I didn't want to go into a full logic course. And actually, I may go into a full logic course later with Thomas. But just for John's senior year and the logic we're doing now, I decided just to do the fallacies. We're not very far in this book, but it's been really fun so far reading about and talking about the fallacies. And I think John's enjoying it a little more than Thomas is because he is really speaking up and having a lot to say. My only caveat with this book is there are some things in here that could lean a little bit in towards theology, and this theology does not match up with our theology. So I'm going to be a little careful with those questions and may just skip some of them altogether to keep from moving over into error But there's a lot of other stuff in here that's really good. That's just straight fallacy stuff. And this Indy Wilson, and he's a fabulous author. And so this is really fun, a fun way to study fallacies. So that's also happening in morning time. And so what I do is I loop between the two of these. I don't try to do one on one day and like this one on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and this one on Tuesday, Thursday, or vice versa, or anything like that, because last week we only did morning time 3 days. We missed 2 days of doing morning time because of Labor Day and then First Friday at church. And that happens with enough regularity that I'm like, okay, we're just going to loop these. So we loop between these two books. One day we read one, the next day we read the next. If we miss a day or two, we just pick up with the one we didn't read the next time. So we loop those two books. The other thing we do in morning time is we read literature together. Literature can be a little bit tough for some of my readers, and so I just read it out loud. That's just one of the things that I do. I get to listen and enjoy. We get to have really great and fabulous conversations as a family. We can do narration. We can talk about the book. We can do all of these different kinds of things, and I just read it. I have, for the past few years, started the year with a Narnia book. So even though I have high schoolers, I feel like Narnia is good for any age group. This is one we have not done yet as a family. And at first, John was like, I've never read The Silver Chair, but now that we're getting into it, I think I've listened to this one. He listens to a lot of audiobooks, or he did when he was little. And he does think he's listened to this one, but Thomas has never read it. I've never read it. And so we are starting this year with The Silver Chair, and we're actually about halfway through already, so it goes pretty fast. When we finish this one, we are going on to Ender's Game. That's where we're going next. And then I don't know where we're going after that. Maybe To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm thinking about that one. I'm also open to other books and other suggestions. And so I'm just going to keep my eyes out for things that I think they would find interesting and would also be really good. We were actually talking about the Odyssey. It came up in John's writing this morning. And I'm like, oh, maybe we should read the Odyssey. We might go there too. Who knows? But we always do literature in morning time as well. And so that's our morning time. And then once that ends, then the boys move on to their own individual subjects. So let me talk about those now. One of the things you need, if you look at Module 8 of Put Your Homeschool Year on Autopilot, it is all about organization. And there are 3 key organization questions that we go over in the course. And one of them is, how are you going to communicate to these students what it is that they need to do? And the way I'm communicating with my students this year is the same way that I communicated with them second semester of last year. This year we are back to what we were using second semester of last year, and that is our student planner pages. So these are printed in black and white right now because I think my color printer is out of ink. But these are the 2 masculine designs. There are actually 4 designs in our student planners. We do not use the entire planner. We just use these pages. And so these are 2 of the masculine designs from there. And I just print out 1 design for each kid. So I know which sheet belongs to who just by looking at the design that's on it. And so this is their work and how I communicate with them what it is they're going to do. So let's talk about what each one of them are doing. Each one of them is doing individually. John is supposed to be doing PE, and he gets a cumulative PE credit for all 4 years of high school. And that is something that I have to stay on him about. So he is either walking outside regularly, or we have some exercises that he can be doing to building muscle or working on his core. He's done core exercises in the past. So there are just different things that he can do, but he's supposed to be doing it 2 days a week. And that is one of the things that I do have to stay on him about. So he is supposed to be doing that. He is also doing math this year. Now, he has completed through geometry. He chose not to continue with Algebra 2. That was something that he said he did not want to do. But this math is actually counting as an elective for him, and he is doing the consumer math program with Mr. D Math. And there is so much in this math program. It is not just math. It is things like the stock market and opening a checking account, all kinds of different life skills stuff, and then basic math reviews, basic algebra reviews that are built in there. And it's a wonderful program. He just opens it up and does the next thing. We talk about it, we discuss it, And I usually have a few things that I want to add to each and every unit. Sometimes I watch the videos with him and I learn right along with him. You better believe I'm going to be doing that when he gets to the stock market one, because that thing is still a mystery to me. We just let the investment firm handle it. And I'm like, oh, maybe I could learn something about this. So consumer math with Mr. D Math. And like I said, it really is a life preparedness kind of thing. It talks about buying a house and rental and insurance and just so many different things that young adults need as they're going into life. And so even though he didn't really need a math, it covered so many more things math adjacent that I thought it would be really good for him. And so we are using that for an elective credit this year. He doesn't do it every day a week. He does it 3 days a week. And we think that'll be more than enough for him to get through the program by the end of the year. He's also doing Fix-It Grammar from IEW. This is our favorite grammar. Okay, let me rephrase that. This is my favorite grammar program because it is so easy to use. And they just do a sentence a day, multiple days a week, and it just works out really great. And so they are continuing with Fix-It Grammar this year. And John actually does that 5 different days out of the week. And then for writing, he is doing the book that I really feel like all seniors should do before they leave home. All juniors, if they're going to dual enroll. I think you could do it as a junior, do it as a senior. And this is The Lively Art of Writing. Let me see if I can get it out of the sunshine so you can see the cover. This is by Lucille Van Payne, and this is the writing book that I used when I was a senior in high school, and it was old when I used it. So let's just say when the term drag race came up, I had to explain what drag race meant then, as opposed to what it means now. It was an interesting conversation. Yes, she does talk about drag racing in this book, the kind that they used to do in the 50s with cars on the streets and all of the pros and cons of that. And then there are lots of other examples that teens can really relate to, but it is so interesting and fascinating to read. And it teaches you how to write. It really does. It teaches you how to organize your writing. It teaches you how to do a good job making a thesis statement. It teaches you how to write an essay. And I can remember I won a number of different essay competitions back in the day, in my early days of teaching, and then also in my high school and college years, writing essays that I had learned how to write from this book. And of course, it stood me well all throughout college writing. I actually clapped out of my first college writing class. I did not have to take it because of what I had learned in this book. So I love this little gem. The only thing I don't like about it is the text is teeny tiny. I cannot find it in an ebook version. And so I have reading glasses on top of my bifocal contacts, like under the light, trying to read along with John. So yeah, just to warn you, if either you or your student have trouble seeing, it is a little difficult to read. Now, Olivia just took this and ran with it and did it completely on her own. John needs a little more help with it. And then there is a workbook that some wonderful, awesome parent made that goes along. There are actually exercises at the end of each chapter that I have the kids do. There are questions, and then there's a list of assignments, and then some vocabulary study. And some mom out there made this little PDF workbook that you can download that gives you space to do all of those things. And so that's what we use for this book. And I just love it. I really recommend this one. And I will find that link for the workbook and link it to you. You do have to sign into the Well-Trained Mind Forum, so you'll have to create an account there. I'm sorry I can't link it anywhere else because it's not mine. And that's where the mom shared it all those years ago. So I will see. I think I can find it. And if you are out there listening, the mom who made that workbook, you are awesome and amazing. And thank you so much. We really appreciate it because I've used it now with 2 kids and I will use it with 1 more. All right. So that is John's writing. And that is it for his official subjects that he has to be working on. Now, he also is doing some unschooling of coding projects. He has various coding projects that he's working on his computer, and he has asked me not to turn those into school. And so I have honored that, but occasionally we meet up together. I go and he shows me what he's been coding lately. it comes in fits and spurts. Sometimes he's like very excited about it, and for a few different days in a row, I'll go and he'll show me exactly what it is he's been coding and how it works and how he wrote the code and how he figured it out in the tutorials he watched and all of that stuff. And then other times he goes for a few weeks and I haven't heard anything about the coding. And then I prod him again and say, hey, how's the coding going and what are you working on? And I have a feeling that computer something is going to be a career path for him. And so I've stayed out of the way from that and let him do that on his own. Okay, so that's John. Now let's move on to Thomas. So Thomas is doing a little bit more of a traditional path. So he does all the same subjects in morning time that John does. And I was going to have him do history this year. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just have him do the government and economics with John. And so he is working with us through anything we do this year for economics and government. So he's going to do that. And also he is doing Fix-It Grammar. Now he's only doing Fix-It Grammar 2 days a week. That's totally fine with me. If we don't get through the entire book, we can take more than 1 year to go through a book, but he is just working on it regularly. And then the other thing that he is doing for English is we are actually using exercises in the Writing Revolution. Now this book was recommended to me by two people. First of all, it was recommended to me by a listener of the podcast, and she sent it to me for me to have a look at. She thought that it might suit our purposes for our Language Arts Together curriculum, and she was exactly right. And then I had a friend recommend it to me about the same time as well. So when two people recommend a resource to you, you know that you really need to look at it and check it out. Now they actually have a 2.0. We'll link the 2.0 for you because it has more examples and things like that, but this was the one that I picked up and bought. And we are looking at using this method of writing in our Language Arts Together curriculum and our Voyages curriculum for next year. And so in order to be prepared to do that, because I have not announced this yet, we are going to do Language Arts Together for elementary school and for middle school next year. And in order to be able to do that, I needed to really push up my sleeves, dig in, and use the program. And so Thomas and I have done some of the sentence building in here, which he promptly told me he didn't need to do because he knows how to do that already. So now we are moving on to outlining and drafting paragraphs, and I will sneak the sentence building back in as I need to. And that's one of the things I love about this. It's not a curriculum. It is a writing method, and so you do have to put it together yourself. I don't have it with me, but I actually went through and made a checklist of all the skills that were in the book so that as we work on the various skills, I can check them off and see where do I need to go next, and are there any things that I need to go back and review. If I find that there are some of those sentence building skills that would really help him, I could star them or put a square around the box so I remember to actually do some of those exercises. And the beautiful thing about it is you do the exercise. This is cross-curricular. So you do the exercises based on the content that they're doing in their other subjects. So I'm basing the content of his writing exercises on his biology that he's doing, and also on, sometimes I do it on the silver chair, the literature that we're reading, and sometimes I do it on the fallacies, and sometimes I do it on whatever happened to Penny Candy. And we've just started. We've only been at it for a few weeks now, so we can come back and check in on this. If 5 or 6 months from now, if you want to know how it's going, leave me a comment and ask me, and I'll let you know how it's going. So we just got started with that one, but I'm excited. Literature, grammar, and the Writing Revolution, and that makes up Thomas's credit for English. And he does the writing 3 days a week. Okay, then he has biology, and we jumped around for a few different things for biology, and we actually settled on Khan Academy. Now, I know Khan Academy is not going to work for everyone because it is a secular biology. That's something we don't have a problem with, and so he is working his way through the Khan Academy biology class for this year, and that's what he's doing. He actually really likes Sal Khan, and he likes the videos a lot. And I am fine with that. So that's something that he's doing. And then we have this monster. It is the illustrated guide to home biology experiments. And we got the lab kit. that goes along with that from the home scientist. And we have not even opened the box yet and dug into this. And so this is something I've got to do. I've got to get the box open. We actually have a microscope, and so we'll be able to go through and do some of the assignments, the labs that are in here. And if you want to know what labs to schedule, I have a copy of the Elemental Science High School Biology, and Paige schedules out all the labs for you in there. Now, they no longer support their high school biology curriculum, but they do have the PDFs available for you to download for free, and which is very generous of her. I've used some of her middle grade stuff and some of her elementary stuff. It's all really great stuff. Go check out Elemental Science if you're looking for something. But she does schedule out these labs, and so I just use the schedule that she includes in that high school biology PDF. And so that is a really great resource, and we thank her for that. The final two subjects on Thomas's list are math and Japanese, and thankfully he does both of those with the tutor. Japanese, he has a Japanese tutor that he meets with, and they go over the Japanese, and I really I listen in sometimes. I don't know. It's all Japanese to me, but it's something that he really enjoys, and I'm just so thankful that we have that resource. And if you're in the neighborhood for a Japanese tutor, let me know. We can hook you up. You can just leave me a comment or something like that. And he met with Mr. Steve all last year on Zoom, and he meets with him this year, and they do Japanese together, and they have a textbook that they use for that. And then finally, he does math. He does math with his tutor, Miss Debbie, who has been the math tutor of all of my children since Olivia hit long division years and years ago. We love Miss Debbie. My kids will tell you Miss Debbie is their absolute favorite teacher. And she and Thomas are finishing up the end of Algebra 1 right now. And so we don't get hung up on totally finishing something within a year. So it's not that he started Algebra 1 in August of last year. He started Algebra 1 in February of last year and finished the first semester by the end of the school year. And now he's finishing the second semester. So we've never stuck with the school year for math. Some of my kids have moved slower and it's taken them longer. Thomas is actually one who moves a little bit faster once he started working with Miss Debbie and stopped working with me. And so he's going to finish up Algebra 1 definitely before the end of this semester, and he'll go ahead and start geometry. And Miss Debbie has indicated to me that he will be using Mr. D geometry as well. I actually convinced Miss Debbie to start using Mr. D with my kids a number of years ago, and since she has started it, she really likes it. My kids were the first ones that she's used it with. She uses it with some of her other students now, and she says that it is a good, solid math program, and we are so appreciative of that. And so Thomas will be moving on to Mr. D geometry, and he has great ambitions to do calculus before he leaves high school. We shall see. I'm like, oh, good. It's good to have ambitions. So there you go. And that's it. I just threw a lot of stuff at you, but we're going to link everything for you that we can. And that's what we're doing. If you have any questions about what we're doing, let me know and I will try to answer them. I will be choosing some other books and things as we go along. I always reserve the right to switch up morning time. It's a very good chance we may pick up some apologetics before the end of the school year. I just have various ideas, and as time opens up in morning time, I'll add different things in. As things come along and pique my interest, I'll add some things in. Oh, and I know I was going to say, because Thomas is studying Japanese, one of our explorations topics in Wonder Studies this year is Japan. And so when that month rolls around, I'll be using the texts that come to my phone for the explorations. And I'm going to do it with both boys because I feel like John will be really receptive. In morning time, we'll do some of that Japanese art, literature, poetry, all of those different kinds of things. And I think that'll come along in February or March. And so that'll be a fabulous kind of pick me up to our morning time at a time of year where things get a little bit monotonous. So if you have any questions about anything we're using, do let me know. I would be so happy to answer for you. And I hope your school year is off to a great start and that you have some fun and exciting things that your family likes to do. If you would like to chat about curriculum choices and how we're using resources, come on over and join us in our free homeschool community. We'll drop the link for you in the description down below so that you can join us. And so many conversations abound over there, all about curriculum resources and how we use them. So come on over.